So just a couple of things to touch on today as far as our COVID update goes, or our current events and employment law update goes. The first one is, you probably all saw in the news yesterday that the now former, I guess, or soon to be former Boston Mayor Marty Walsh has been confirmed as the Department of Labor Secretary. What does that mean potentially for employers? Well, keep in mind that the Department of Labor Secretary doesn't make law on his or her own, but they do become an advocate for legislation, and they do set policy within the Department of Labor. So I think some really important things to know about Marty Walsh: very pro-employee, comes from a union background. He was a union head before he became mayor of Boston. He also has some interesting personal details, which really suggests that he is an employee advocate. He had some issues, some health issues when he was younger, and like I said, has been involved in unions. So he's advocating for all sorts of things that are on the pro-employee agenda. I think will be a big advocate for increasing the federal minimum wage. I think we can see worker safety issues. We're already starting to see that OSHA is becoming more active in the enforcement area. For any of you who joined us with Erin Rimza a few weeks ago when she was on the town hall, and Erin did our PSO training last week, she's been talking more and more about how the enforcement with OSHA is going up. So I think we can expect to see that trend. And also, as I said, pro-union. So the Department of Labor is probably going to do whatever it can to try to make union organizing easier. We will, as Kevin said, have a partner from Troutman Pepper later in April to talk about what that might mean, even if you're in a non-union workforce, what that might mean for you. So keep sort of stay tuned on that. And then I just wanted to revisit, because we're getting a lot of questions on the stimulus bill and what it means for employers, specifically with regard to FFCRA. So as you know, on March 11th, 2021, President Biden signed into law the American Rescue Plan Act of 2021, ARPA. And a few key takeaways for employers. The one that's probably of most interest, or we've seen to be of large interest to our members, is the FFCRA. So as you remember, last year, right about in this time, Families First Coronavirus Response Act was signed into law. It was mandatory paid leave for employers with fewer than 500 employees. Okay. And so just a quick refresher, these were the 6 reasons that employees could get 10 paid or partially paid sick days. And then there was an additional expansion of the Family and Medical Leave Act only for childcare reasons, if childcare centers or if schools were closed because of COVID. So there was a stimulus bill passed in December that extended FFCRA on a voluntary basis, and now it's been extended again. So this new voluntary extension covers April 1st, 2021 through September 30th, 2021. A couple of notable changes: that the emergency paid sick leave now includes paid time off for employees to get a vaccine or to recover from side effects related to the vaccine. Resets as of April 1st, the 10 days of paid sick leave for all employees. I'll talk about that more in a second. And now the extended FMLA is available for all of the qualifying reasons under the paid sick leave, not just the childcare. So that's a big deal. I think what happened last year, a lot of companies were dealing with the fact that the only emergency pay Family Medical Leave Act extension was childcare issues, and employees needed time off for other reasons. And now we can do this under FFCRA. So remember, it's a voluntary extension. Employers can apply for the tax credit. And these are some of the common questions that we've been getting. Okay, so just to respond to these. First one: can the emergency paid sick leave be used for vaccination related absence prior to April 1st? It doesn't appear that way. And I'll give these all with a caveat. DOL has not given us any guidance yet on the new extension. I hope to get that by the time we meet again in 2 weeks. I think the answer to that is no. The current extension is April 1st through September 30th, 2021. So no, I don't think that this current extension can be used for anything that happens prior to April 1st. And then another question we're getting a lot: so if you have employees who had 10 days before, do they get 10 new days on April 1st? Do they get 20 days? Or if they use 3 days, do they now have 17 days? And I think the answer to that also is no. It's a reset on April 1st. Everybody gets 10 days as of April 1st. Whatever you used or didn't use in the past for the paid sick leave kind of goes away. Keep in mind with regard to FMLA, unless or until DOL tells us something different, FMLA is going to be guided by your the way your policies work around FMLA. Do you use a calendar year? Do you use a rolling year? That's how the FMLA time is going to be determined, unless, again, DOL tells us something different. We've also had this question several times. Can the emergency paid sick leave be used to care for a family member who is getting or recovering from vaccine? It appears the answer is no. Again, DOL might give us some different guidance on that. And then another question we have been getting, can we extend one and not the other? So can we give the emergency paid sick leave, but not give the extended FMLA? This is, I think, is a little bit more tricky. It would appear that the answer should be yes, because this is a voluntary extension. So if I decide as an employer, I can voluntarily do one, not the other. But we have no guidance from the DOL on this yet. So tread carefully and be very mindful of anything that could appear to be discriminatory. You don't want to be making these decisions on a case-by-case basis. You want to have an overall policy and practice. We've also had the question, will there be new posters coming out? You would think yes, but because this isn't mandatory, the answer may be no. So we haven't seen new posters yet. If there are new posters, we will let you know as soon as possible. And then the other two pieces of the stimulus bill that are pretty relevant to employers is the extension of unemployment. Those benefits were, the federal extension was set to expire on March 14th, and it now goes through September 6th. So something to keep in mind. From an employer's point of view, this cuts two different ways. One is that if you have to lay employees off, that there's this additional benefit for them, but also as an employer, if you're trying to hire, you've got employees who are getting more in unemployment potentially than they could make in some positions, and I think that might make hiring more challenging. And then finally, the COBRA subsidies. Again, this is something that is a comfort to employers who are laying people off or have laid employees off, because the subsidy, which will siphon through the employer and the employer passes it on to the employee. But basically, employees will be able to get 6 months of subsidized COBRA. So that's helpful. Certainly for employees where we have a concern as an employer that employees might lose their healthcare coverage, this allays some of those concerns. So just a quick update. I'm guessing when we come back in 2 weeks, I'm going to have some additional information for you, but that's all I have now. And I do see one question. Can we decide how long within the 10 days to give people leave for getting a vaccine or side effects? So that's a good question. We have not gotten anything from DOL yet as far as what kind of documentation we can request around the vaccine issue. We got some pretty good answers from DOL with all of the other things that came through last year. My guess is we're going to get some guidance, hopefully in the next 2 weeks, and I'll let you know. But I think it's going to be some sort of a reasonableness test. Obviously, people don't need 2 days to get a vaccine, but I think the symptoms on recovery are going to vary from person to person. I've heard everything from I had a sore arm to I was in bed for a day and a half with flu-like symptoms. So stay tuned on that one.
There was one more question that came in as you were speaking. So for COBRA, does that include any terminated voluntary prior to April 1?
Yeah, there can be, even if someone did not, so if I go back to my slide, even if someone did not originally elect the COBRA, yes, I'm sorry, the period is April 1st through September 30th, but if they were laid off prior to April 1st, yes, they can still get the subsidy. So hopefully that answers the question.
And there was a question about how are they administering it. I recommend you speak to either your benefit plan provider or your COBRA administrator, because they're all having to update their systems for this.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right. Well, we will talk to you all in 2 weeks. Enjoy the holiday week. And thank you again to Amy, Holly, and Margaret for a great session. Have a good day, everybody. Bye-bye.
All right. Take care.